I wanted to start by just asking or talking about the fact that you were at Unilever for about 16 years, right?
13 years.
13 years,
Yeah,
okay.
13 years.
And you were behind the wildly successful Axe
There were a lot of people.
brand.
There were a lot of people behind it. You know, it was a phenomenon. I mean, it really was an amazing brand to work on. It still is, actually. I mean, they still do great things. I think the success of that brand was really redefining the category for them, which was amazing, right? You have this category, which isn't very glamorous. It's about kind of stopping sweat and odor, right? And literally, the brand took a very different approach to it and said, how can we not be about an absence of kind of something bad, but actually be something positive? And said, so it wasn't about stopping that stuff. And actually, the brand never talked about really that. It was always about smelling great and giving girls the edge in the main game. So it had a great emotional connection, great insight. The insight's really simple. 18-year-old guys feel like they don't have any kind of cards in the mating game, you know, and girls hold them all. And so those little insights work around the world. And so, you know, that's what it was based on. And then it was done in a really clever, great way by the agencies and by the ad team.
So what'd you take from that experience, you know, marketing CPG brands?
Yeah.
Now marketing spirits brands.
Well, it's, you know, marketing is marketing at the end of the day if you do it right. You have a really, really strong consumer insight. And once you find on that kind of that sweet spot between a functional insight and an emotional insight and really then deliver it to consumers. So in marketing spirits brands, I mean, it's not very different than that. What is different is that we have so much more heritage and authenticity and stories around spirits brands that our marketers dream. You know, there's no provenance to shampoo. There's no, I can't go meet Mr. Suave, right? But if I want to talk to Jim Beam's great-grandson and have a conversation with him, he works for us. He's fantastic, and he goes and meets consumers. If I want to talk to the guy who started Maker's Mark, Bill Samuels, and his father started Maker's Mark. So when you look at those things, you're able to actually interact with the people who have kind of the history and the heritage and the provenance of those brands. And when we take those folks out, it's like they're rock stars. So I mean, essentially what I've learned is that if you have a really strong consumer insight, it's not rocket science. I mean, this is pretty simple stuff. Really strong consumer insight executed in a great way, and it's functionally a great product, then it's all about the creativity around that to drive it home. And so that was a big kind of, you know, that was where I learned a lot about the marketing kind of way of doing things. And you know, now applying that to brands which have such good history and really fun things that people are really interested in talking about, it's really cool.
And that authenticity, that focus and desire on the part of consumers to really be interacting with authentic brands.
Absolutely right. There's this weird thing that's happening that we've seen that I've heard some people quote as imagined authenticity, which is happening right now as a trend in kind of in the world. You know, you see vintage T-shirts, and you go into Anthropologie, and all the furniture and the wood floors look like they've been there for 20 years, and you know, but it was all made yesterday at the end of the day. So there's this, and people like interacting with that stuff. You know, in the spirits business, you have real authenticity, real people that you can touch and feel and meet, and you know, and we as Beam, we're really uniquely qualified in that space, or we're uniquely positioned in that space, that we have so many of the founders of our business still. That, I mean, you can't talk to Jack Daniels tomorrow, but I can talk to, you know, Jim Beam's great-grandson, Fred No, who's on the bottle, and I can talk to him anytime I want.
So are you
really
leveraging them in the Bold Choice campaign, and how's that
Fred's
playing
actually,
out?
Fred, we have this campaign around Bold Choice, and really how Bold Choice came about was the fact that, you know, we looked at what the family did, and literally the family, you know, started this distillery in 1795, kind of in the wilds of Kentucky, with Indian raids and everything else going on. So they made a choice to stay there and do that, and then Prohibition came in the United States, and they basically shut down a business, and 10 days after, or 100 days after the Prohibition was ended in 1933, they started it up again, and literally made the choice to go back into that business. And so there's some very bold choices made by that family that have been at the DNA of that brand. And then we talk to our consumers, and we understand how they think about things, and they're really people who like to kind of make their own way, do their own thing, rather than follow the crowd. So we use that as the basis for Bold Choice. And then we actually have taken Fred No, and Fred is actually going to be in an ad that's currently airing right now. It's a great ad which talks about those kind of three things I just talked about, you know, starting up again after Prohibition.
So talk about using celebrities in your advertising.
You know, we used, most recently we used Willem Dafoe in our current Jim Beam ad, and it's interesting because the premise of the ad was showing somebody who's made the choices that they made in life, and there's a great voiceover in the ad about the choices you make, you know, dictate the life you lead, basically. And and any choice, all choices lead you somewhere. Bold choices take you where you're supposed to be. So we essentially followed somebody, and the treatment really called for, and a brilliant job by MJZ Productions and Dante Ariola, who's the director, who's done some brilliant work. The treatment called for somebody who could play in a lot of different roles and basically show what could have been for somebody who didn't make the choice to actually get on the bus and go to New York and be an actor, but rather stayed in Appleton, Wisconsin, where he was. And so that story plays itself out. And Willem played 12 different characters in that spot, which was really exciting to see and watch and see how it unfolded, the choices he made and what he could have been. And some really crazy, like a sumo wrestler, and some, it could have been a high-powered attorney or whatever it is. But it's very funny to see. But celebrity for us is not to, it helps with instant recognition and awareness. Excuse me, instant recognition and awareness. But beyond that, I think celebrity plays a bit of a role in what you do. But I don't think people buy products because the celebrity is generally in an ad. I think it's used to actually get attention and to tell a story, which in this case, that's what we tried to do.
You personally have done a lot of experimentation with a varied media mix. I know that you recently went back to TV, though, after a few-year hiatus. Why? But also, sort of, how are you more broadly defining TV these days? I know that you're doing a lot with interactive TV, for example.
Yeah, I think Beam. I got to Beam 2 years ago, and when I got there, we hadn't advertised on television for about 3 or 4 years, and so it was time to get the brand back out there again, and that was the exciting part for us. And so creating TV that did that, or video that did that. Television to me is, that's just the pipe by which we deliver the video content at the end of the day, or the experience for the consumer. There's a number of different ways that we're delivering video content these days, and obviously it's all those places that you see and hear and feel, whether it's tablets or mobile or on their computer screen. I think the idea of taking content, and largely it's video content that people are really interested in, and then putting it wherever people want to see it at any time of the day is really, really critical. And that's the thing. I think interactive television is a really interesting one, because what you end up doing with interactive television and our experience with it, both at Beam and then when I was at Unilever, was the fact that it actually makes a lot more, it's more efficient use of your TV dollars. So you're using the same TV spots that you bought in the middle of whatever TV show you're buying on Discovery Network. Yet with somebody like DirecTV or Dish Network, people can then go and enter into a brand channel or a world if they want to find out more about your product, or see more concert footage from Kid Rock, or learn more about the brand in different ways, or get drink recipes. So the ability for people to actually interact closer with the brand in an environment that they prefer, because they have a very different relationship with their television than they do with their PC, than they do with their kind of very personal tablet or iPhone. It's an environment that they prefer, and so it's really easy, and we see, and I've seen in my experience, really good, efficient use of television and interaction and content delivery through that medium.